White Rocket Entertainment podcast number 957. What is that, Andy?
That's a lot of podcasts, man.
It is a lot. Coming at you live from a DVD player somewhere in down below. It's the only place we could find one that was compatible. It is the White Rocket Babylon 5 and Sci-Fi Review podcast. I am your host, Van Allen Plexico, joined as always by my co-host somewhere in quantum space.
Ooh.
Andy Fix. How are you doing tonight, Andy?
I'm doing fabulous, Van. That countdown leading to the live opening was pretty tense. I was a little anxious there. I mean,
it was exciting, wasn't it?
It was very cool. See, haven't been part of a live broadcast of wrestling shows before. They always do that, but they always get the audience just pumped before. So you got to do that. There's got to be some way that you get me pumped before we go live. So when we go live, we're all hot and ready to go right away.
I think that you and I are hot and ready to go enough for our show already. We don't need any extra hyping. But this is exciting because we got a big one tonight. We've covered books, we've covered comics, we did all of Crusade, but this episode, we are, as we enter the new year, it's now January 17th of 2026, we are covering the last produced live action, because there was the animated thing,
right?
Live action Babylon 5 anything. Right. This is the last thing that was ever done, and it's hard to believe as of now it was 19 years ago. They made it on it came out on the 9th anniversary of the end of Babylon 5, because Babylon 5 ended at the end of 98. And this came out in 2007.
Right.
And it's been 19 years since that. So a lot of water under the bridge, but this is the last thing that was done. And so we've talked about, we're pretty much out of Babylon 5 stuff. Well, we are, when we finish this one, we will be out of live action Babylon 5 stuff. We still got maybe some comics and things, maybe some other books or whatever, but this is it. So this is exciting. Yep. I'm excited. So you excited to finish up live action B5?
It's bittersweet because I'm excited because, we've come to an end, we've completed it, but I'm also sad because, we've come to an end of Babylon 5 and it makes you think, the what ifs and the could have beens.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's for sure. I know. And seeing, we're going to talk about this a lot, but seeing the special effects that they had just 9 years later, it really shows you how quickly visual effects evolved. To see the Babylon 5 visual effects in 1998, like on Sleeping in Light,
right?
And then fast forward just 9 years and what the station looked like.
They were spectacular. I mean, not just the station, but the ships and everything, the texture. And we'll get into this. That's one of my answers, one of my categories. So we'll get into this later. But yeah. It was astounding, and it makes you, weep for what we could have had with today's special effects if we got the reboot. How cool that would have been, because it looks spectacular for sure.
There's no doubt.
And they did it on a fraction of a budget of a regular Babylon 5 episode too.
Yeah, I think they put half the budget for this thing into that 1 10-second long shot that we're going to talk about toward the end,
right?
With the Centauri ship and the two warlocks.
Yeah,
dude, I had to rewind that twice. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold on, I'm like, I know Andy's rewinding this too. This is too good. You got to watch this a couple of times. Oh my goodness.
That was super cool to watch.
That was incredible. All right. So before we get into the Lost Tales DVD, which ended up not being a DVD the way I watched the end of it, more about that coming in a minute too. We'll kind of watch it in two formats. What kind of news or announcements do we have? Anything on your end, JMS related, B5 related, or anything else?
Nothing. Because we've expanded the title a little bit, we should expand our news and notes a little bit too to include other sci-fi stuff.
We should and we will. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I will point out again, as I always do, that we have a firm schedule now going forward for 2026 into 2027. So our listeners on the podcast side, on the audio side, will now be able to have a new White Rocket episode downloaded every week for this entire year. new to you, right? Some of them are reruns from our other channels or whatever, like the James Bond or whatever. But I just figure our White Rocket audience and the James Bond channel, not a lot of crossover. So if you want to enjoy, like about once a month on the White Rocket channel, you'll get the White Rocket Entertainment Pod. You'll get a James Bond movie review with me and Alan J. Porter of the Ian Fleming Foundation. But we'll also be doing these. We'll continue our every other week schedule going forward. And I think our next thing coming up, maybe our next Stargate Universe, I'm thinking maybe we're coming back around to that. So we'll go ahead and get some, because I'm dying to find out how they get off that planet where they were in the underground. I haven't watched yet. I don't remember how they get out of that trap. So anyway, I discovered this week, I probably knew it and had forgotten 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, that JMS wrote a screenplay for a Lensman movie in 2010 for Ron Howard. Produce and direct. And he said, quote, JMS, Universal loved the script, but thought the name value, in other words, the recognition, people didn't know what it was, didn't justify the high budget that would be required, so they let the option on the book expire.
That's frustrating.
I know. I'm like, if you want to make a movie out of it, and it's a big space opera, like really the first, I think, don't you think you're probably going to need some special effects for it? I mean,
well, and they just assume that everything's got to be part of a franchise or a sequel or have some sort of, name recognition before they'll dedicate any money to it. But how are you going to get anything original and spectacular made? I mean, The Matrix didn't have any of that stuff, right? It didn't have any really big name actors in it. It wasn't based on a franchise, nothing. That blew the audience out of the water because it was original and it was well done. Throw some money at it, make a really good movie. I mean, the Lensman stories are fantastic. It's a cool concept, cool characters. Throw some money at it, and it will take care of itself. If it's cool and if it's well done, it will make money. I mean, Avatar had nothing, right? Except for the James Cameron name. That's all it had. It didn't have anything else, and it made billions of dollars. So these people got to have a little bit of faith. And that's why I appreciate like Apple, Netflix, and Prime, Amazon Prime. They get a lot of flack for, being corporate, blah, 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 blah. But they're not afraid to throw money at stuff that that has zero name recognition. Like for, I forget who was it. I think it was Amazon Prime did the thing with Charlize Theron where she was the immortal. They did two movies. Yeah, those were great, and they didn't have anything going for. Yeah, and Apple's been throwing money left and right at either low name value properties or brand new properties that have been doing really well. So, the streaming seems to be the home of original fantasy and science fiction now.
It does. I'm surprised they haven't done a Lensman for Amazon or Netflix or something at this point, or Apple. But I mean, I was going to say though, I wouldn't have thought Foundation was something I was interested in that much. The only thing that drew me to even check Foundation out was just that it was a big budget Apple sci-fi show, and I thought, well, let's see, because I'd read the books. And they're not terrible, but they're very much a product of when they were written, and they're I always say the Foundation books are old white guys sitting around smoking cigars with their atomic ashtrays while they, which actually showed up on the show, by the way, while they, talk about galactic issues and all.
Right. And I would argue that Lensman has just as much name recognition as Foundation did before the Apple series started.
Before the series.
Go ahead.
And yet I'm just saying, and yet I loved it is all I was going to say.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people did because it's gotten 3 seasons now. The Green Knight for the 3rd season. So,
well, we just got the 3rd season.
Okay,
so they got green light. Thank goodness, yeah.
And For All Mankind has gotten the green light, and it's had 4 seasons now, and they're filming the 5th season. So, I mean,
and it's not based on anything; it's just an original.
Right. Exactly.
Well, based on history, but
right. So streaming has become the home of original, not original, but either original or low name value fantasy and science fiction, I think, which is cool because we're getting some good stuff.
Oh yeah, and we're going to talk about it on this show going forward in the future.
Right.
I also, while I was researching the Lost Tales DVD, I found this little snippet from like 2014 or 15, and I just bring this up to make everybody feel bad. Okay, that's the only reason I do it. There was a headline. It was one of those like little Yahoo News type things from 2014 or 15.
We need more bad news right now, man. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Well, here you go. Here you go. Babylon 5 movie targets 2016 production start date.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about this one, but it talks about JMS revealed at Comic-Con 2014 that he is planning on writing a new feature film reboot based on his beloved series. Blah, blah, blah. He said that plans getting the screenplay locked down by the end of 2015 with production tentatively scheduled to begin sometime 2016. It will be a complete reboot of the Babylon 5 concept. Does that sound familiar? We were talking about the new show that was going to come out.
Yep.
And the writer stated he wants to bring in Babylon 5 series stars such as Bruce Boxleitner and Mira Furlan to play new characters. Quote, I'd love to see Bruce as the president of the Earth Alliance.
Oh, like, God.
Santiago. Bruce would have been Santiago, basically.
Or Clark.
Yeah. Or, oh, God. I don't think he meant that one, but Lord. The writer-producer also hinted he hopes Warner Brothers will come on board and give the green light for this big-budget feature, which will reportedly cost between 80 and 100 million. Now, I wanted to say that because in 2007, after this DVD that we're about to talk about came out, we all waited impatiently for the Lost Tales Disc 2, right? The next installment. And just like with the animated thing a couple of years ago, he never did another one.
Right.
He does the one, we buy it, everybody says, wow, that sold way better than we expected, and then they never do anything else with it. And I'm going to say this now, we're going to revisit it later, but I want to point this out now. The reason JMS gave when asked why he never did another Lost Tales DVD is he said, I've lost interest in doing low budget, straight to video things. I want to do a big budget movie. And there it was exactly 7-8 years later, he actually thought he was, and it didn't happen.
Right.
So it's just so frustrating to be a Babylon 5 fan and see Star Trek after Star Trek after Star Trek, not to mention Star War after Star War after Star War. And we keep getting crumbs,
right?
And then told there'll be more of these crumbs, and then there's not.
I think, and I was thinking about this too while watching this. I think one of the big problems of why Babylon 5 never took off like Star Trek and Star Wars did as far as cultural footprint is because it died with a gasp. I mean, it didn't go out with a bang. If it had ended with season 4, Babylon 5 would still be beloved and talked about constantly by a huge fan base right now. But because we went into season 5, which killed a lot of enthusiasm, then we got Legend of the Rangers, which killed a lot of enthusiasm that might have remained. And then we got the Lost Tales, which wasn't great, wasn't bad, but it didn't really do anything to energize the fan base. It just kind of petered out and died and withered away. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well, JMS actually said, I feel like these things we've done since season 5 have done more to harm the legacy than enhance it. And I don't know that he's wrong.
I don't think he's wrong either. I would argue that the debacle that was the way Crusade was handled by the studio, by the television network was detrimental to Babylon 5. It made Babylon 5 look like a weak, franchise that nobody wants to watch. Yeah. It's like, oh, wait, that got canceled before it was even aired. That can't be any good.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard for me because my attitude 99 times out of 100 is I want more of some property I like. You know me.
Right.
If you say we're going to do a reboot, I'm like, fine, I'll watch. If you say we're going to do just more, that's fine, I'll watch. If you're, the Stargate thing has me very excited. I'm looking forward to this new Stargate show. If they'd said we're rebooting Stargate, I'd be like, cool, let's do it. If they said we're going to do another series set in the same continuity, I'd be like, cool, let's do it. I don't care if they said we're going to do another version of Ready Player One, a different movie. Cool, three versions of the story. I'm there. I don't care. I just want more of the things I love. I'm not picky about, you've crapped on my memories and ruined my memory. No, I don't. I never approach it that way.
Right.
But I have to agree though that for the public, I think Babylon 5, the things that JMS tried to do, and I don't blame him for trying to do them in the moment, but I think you're right that they have done more harm than good, and that's really unfortunate.
That is unfortunate. Speaking of doing more harm than good, Dave Filoni is now the official head of Star Wars franchise.
Yes.
So we'll see where he takes things, because was it Catherine Kennedy was not beloved by a segment of the fans. And you can argue, that she took the wrong direction on a lot of things, like the sequel series and the Solo movie and the other live action movies that she's done have not been, have not wowed the audiences. Right. So I was excited because Filoni is responsible for The Mandalorian and the whole Filoni-verse, which has been pretty good. Mandalorian was fantastic. Absolutely. Book of Boba Fett was flawed but good, and then there's a couple others that I thought were pretty good, but fans have been divided on. However, Filoni has gone on record. Now, this is before season 2 of Andor came out, but he has gone on record saying that he does not like Andor, did not like the direction it took the Star Wars universe, and would not be interested in doing anything with the Andor universe. Now, this was before season 2 came out, so I don't know if he still feels that way or not, but man, that's a shame, because Andor is the best thing to happen to Star Wars since forever.
I can see both sides of that 100% each. I totally get it, because I've been on both sides of that. When Andor first came out, I felt exactly the same way. I said, this is not Star Wars. This is not any Star Wars I want anything to do with. So if you went back and looked me up and found my quotes on social media from the first season of Andor, you'd find stuff that sounds a lot like Dave Filoni.
Right.
But by 2 episodes into season 2, I was like, this is the best thing Star Wars has ever done since 1977. And this is fantastic. Plus, it's incredibly timely, and it's just the best thing. Best show of the year.
Right.
So he may have changed his mind too, like I did. I don't know. But even if he hasn't, I can totally get where a guy that sees Star Wars as the Mandalorian show would not see Andor as, because they couldn't be more different.
Right.
They just couldn't be more different.
Well, there was a meme that went around like season 2 of Mandalorian that showed, it was a picture from an advertisement from the 80s showing 2 kids playing with their Star Wars action figures, and they just had these great big huge grins on their face. They had all their action figures all set out, and they were just having a big battle. And it said,
"Sun is chasing me across the room." We sat down to record this, and I didn't realize the sun was going to come right in my window just as we go on the air. So I got this giant white blast of light melting me like the guns on that Warlock. This is insane.
Do I need to explain orbital mechanics to you again, man?
I gotta do something ridiculous there. All right, I'll just stand here and hold this for an hour. That's fine. No big deal. All right, carry on. I apologize.
So no, that's all right. So it had this picture of these 2 kids just having a blast with their Star Wars toys, and it said Filoni and who's the other guy that did the Mandalorian, the guy that wrote and directed it.
Yeah,
he was in Iron Man too. He did the Iron Man.
Oh, Favreau, yes.
Yeah, Filoni and Favreau planning Mandalorian season 3, and that's exactly what the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka and all those Filoni-verse things are. Is there are 2 kids having fun with their Star Wars action figures.
Absolutely,
and it's great. I love it, but Star Wars can be so much more than that, as shown by the or as shown by Andor. So it'll be interesting to see if Andor, if we get any more shows like Andor,
Right.
much less in the Filoniverse, and if he will incorporate any of that more mature storytelling into his Mandalorian spinoffs.
That I doubt, but I think we'll get more Andor type stuff just because it was so successful and got them like Emmy talk.
Right?
Didn't it even win something? I think it won a technical.
Yeah.
But it was up for several Emmys, and that's not something any other, even Mandalorian, as great as we love it, it was not ever up for any Emmys.
And they were getting big name. Well, no, that's in Mandalorian where they were getting big name cameos and stuff like that. But yeah, people are taking Star Wars seriously when they watch and critique Andor.
Yes. Well, and I would say my favorite example as I've been using is that like the stormtroopers, in the Mandalorian, it's like the Nazis in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right. Like Hogan's Heroes.
And in Andor, it's like Schindler's List.
Right.
Very, very different.
They're terrifying in Andor. I mean, when the stormtroopers come out, it's scary.
You're like, oh, yeah, they're the SS.
Right. And
they're not the Slee Stack. They're the freaking SS.
Right.
They're not hissing and shooting their little crossbow bolts 20 feet away from you.
Right.
They're serious, fanatical soldiers. They're all on more of the lines of the Sardaukar in Dune,
absolutely.
The terror troops, so who they were kind of modeled on, I think.
Basically. And we could do a whole podcast on Andor alone. So,
well, I've done two last year on here, so yeah. All right, so let me just remind everybody we don't have ads, and the reason that we don't have ads on this show is because the great folks that go to www.b5review.com, there's a lot of stuff there that you can check out. There's links to all of the shows that we've done and everything. And click on the button Become a Patron. We would really appreciate it, and it keeps the thing going here. Oh, that reminds me, I need to, because we'll have a fair number of, I'll go ahead and start getting this open. We'll have a fair number of comments that we need to see. And so, but also, or you can just go to patreon.com and look for White Rocket Reviews, because as we've talked about, I'm going to type this in here. We are now reviewing all sorts of shows and movies and things, and I'm really looking forward to all the things that Andy and I are going to be exploring in this year of 2026 and beyond.
And we should open up ideas, like an idea box for our patrons to toss out ideas of not just shows they want us to review, but topics they want us to discuss as well.
That's true. I mean, I'm sure that sooner or later, we will get around to everything, and run through. But what we just remind folks, we are planning on continuing Stargate Universe, and we're going to probably the next things that we're going to do. The next thing we're going to do is Battlestar Galactica, and then hopefully can fit over once we kind of get SGU out of the way and are more into Galactica, we're going to start doing Space Above and Beyond that I've never seen, so that'll be cool. Mm-hmm. And Foundation, which you haven't seen all of, so we're both have a show we haven't seen all. And we're gonna have Laura join us for Battlestar Galactica. She's very excited about that. She watched back in the day like we did. And Jim Yelton is going to continue doing Space 1999 with me occasionally, like once a month too. So we're going to be dropping different shows in about once a month or so as we go forward. I'm really excited about this. I'm really looking forward to putting a lot of content out.
We need to discuss setting aside some time for reviewing Space Precinct.
What is that sound? That rings a bell.
That was a mid-90s, right after Babylon 5 started, a mid-90s syndicated TV show about space cops, and it lasted maybe half a season, maybe a full season, but it was.
I knew that rung a bell.
It was bad. Was
Peter David involved in that?
I don't remember. He might have been. If so, I'm sorry.
Well. I think I was going to say Keith DeCandido has a fantasy series kind of like that called Dragon Precinct. I think that's part of what I was thinking of when you said that. Well, anyway, let's get into the Lost Tales, and this one and only episode is called Voices in the Dark. So this is Babylon 5 : The Lost Tales : Voices in the Dark.
Yes.
Just like Legend of the Rangers was called To Live and Die in Starlight.
Right.
Okay. So 2007. I have a little summary here if you would like me to share it with everyone.
Please.
While traveling from Minbar to Babylon 5 to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Interstellar Alliance, Sheridan picks up an unexpected guest, one I've played on audio performance before here, with a dire warning. Meanwhile, Lockley summons a priest to the station to help with a problem that may have supernatural implications.
Now, when you give the summary like that, it sounds like an episode that has a major A plot and then a supporting B plot. That's not how it was presented on the DVD. You get the one story, then you get the other story, and the one story that should have been the B plot or even a C plot gets a huge chunk of time, and it's not integrated with the other one. It's really weird.
It was because I think it makes even more sense when you consider that originally it was going to have a third story with Garibaldi mixed in too,
right?
And so I think we would have gotten them 1, 2, 3, and instead we only got the 2, and so they just end up like 2 back-to-back A plots,
right? Which
is weird.
Which one of them shouldn't have even been an A plot,
right?
Now my question is, do we have any information at all on that Garibaldi story? What it might have entailed, or if it would have been integrated with the other 2, or anything like that?
Now, the only thing I know about it is that JMS said he was writing for human characters first. Right. I think in terms of to save on the makeup and stuff. Because if you think about it, the only alien character in either one of them on this was the prince, and all it took was some hairstyling.
Right. It wasn't even the full Minbari hairstyle. It was just a like you said,
Centauri.
Centauri, right.
There was no Delenn. There was no Jakar. Well, obviously there couldn't have been a Jakar at that point.
Right. Well, they did have the 2 Minbari that were on board the cruiser with Sheridan.
That's true. They did. That is true. That's the only time I think that we see aliens with makeup on this. That's true. That's a good point. Interesting. All right. So this is production number 235024. Because it was a one-time DVD release straight to home video. Now I'll have to note, it is on Apple Plus. I mean Apple down. You can rent it or purchase it. Right. But there was no way I was going to purchase it because I already paid. Here's the DVD for that. I have it. Here is. I had already paid like $24.95 for this way back in 2007, and it only worked that one time. I thought it was working again this time, but when I got into the second story with Sheridan and the Centauri Prince, it quit working and would not go further. It would not advance. So I had to do like Andy did and go and rent it on Apple. That makes me mad because I didn't want to have to rent something I already bought, but that's the DVD. The DVD's messed up. And it's been that way on every copy I've ever looked at. So if you have this on DVD and you're like, oh, well, my copy works, try watching the entire thing because it got to chapter 7 and froze and would not, and then it would restart. I must have seen that opening menu thing 15 times, and I was pulling my hair out.
And that is because they used very cheap DVDs and they are degrading.
Yes. Yeah. Thank goodness they did get it over onto video. And by the way, I got to say, watching this DVD on my 4K Blu-ray player, it had all kind of like, you could tell it was a DVD. You know what I'm saying? It was, you could tell it was DVD quality.
Not even HD DVD.
No, like a 4, like if you put it onto if you ripped it onto your computer, it would have been about 3 gigabytes. Okay. When I got the one from Apple, it was gorgeous.
Wasn't it though?
Incredible. Looked
so different. So sharp. I mean, not just the outer space scenes, which were freaking fantastic, which we'll talk about, but also the scenes inside the station. I mean, you could see, for better or for worse, you could see every wrinkle on Tracy Scoggins' face. I mean, it was stunning.
Yeah, it's true. So 72 minutes long, $24.98. Originally it filming wrapped on this on November 24, 2006. That's right after I moved up here to Illinois, almost 20 years ago. And the DVD was released in the U.S. on July 31st, 2007. I remember going straight to Walmart to the DVD section to try to get it, and they didn't have it. I think I ended up having to get it from like deepdiscountdvd.com or something. From
I got mine from Best Buy because that's where I did almost all my DVD shopping at. They had a pretty good selection.
Yeah. Let's see. Written by JMS, directed by JMS, produced by JMS, catered by JMS.
He brought sandwiches for everybody for the 3 days they filmed.
That's right. Let's see. So here's the cast. Bruce Boxleitner as President John Sheridan. Tracy Scoggins as Colonel Elizabeth Lockley. So she's gotten a promotion from captain, and we still don't know what the ranks are.
Right.
Just make them up. You got promoted from Colonel to Admiral. Peter Woodward is Galen, which made me happy. Bruce Ramsey is Simon Burke. That was the demon possessed guy.
Yep.
Keegan McIntosh, I thought, was great as Prince Regent Deus Ventari.
I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I mean, just fantastic. He did a great job. And the guy playing the possessed guy didn't do a bad job either. He didn't.
No.
He's still working to this day. I looked him up on IMDb, and he's still doing TV shows to this day. So.
Well, I looked Keegan McIntosh up. He did a couple of things before this Babylon 5, but hasn't really done anything since. So he must have gone into another field.
Right.
He must not be. Well, it's funny because the actor who played his father.
Right.
Also went off into a different field and doesn't act anymore, too. Yeah. Crazy. Alan Scarf as Father Cassidy. And this was interesting. Terrell Rothery as the ISN News reporter, Miss Chambers. You were familiar with her, right?
No, where's she
from? She's the doctor on Stargate.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Holy cow.
A lot of people have played doctors on Stargate, though. Like the Scottish doctor on Stargate Atlantis that was on there for a while, then died, then somehow came back to life and was on there again for a while.
Right.
The engineer lady from Kaylee, right, from Firefly, ended up a doctor on Stargate for a while. So being a doctor on Stargate, you can do a lot of other things.
Right.
A lot of things with it.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You didn't recognize her, huh?
She looked familiar. I didn't know where. I didn't look her up on IMDb.
Yeah, no, I remember the name. Terrell Rothery is a pretty memorable name. Let's see. This takes place. It is set in December 2271. So, fourth season of Babylon 5 was 2261. So it's set basically 10 years after Rising Star.
Right. Because they were celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Interstellar Alliance.
That's right. Story features, as you were talking about, 2 linked plot lines. They're only linked peripherally in that Sheridan comes to Babylon 5 right after they take care of the demon infestation.
Right. There's really no link whatsoever.
I mean, you know what I hadn't thought about it until now, but you know what this really reminded me of? This was like a LITE, a light version of River of Souls meets A Call to Arms.
Yeah, I can see that.
One of them is Lockley dealing with a weird presence on the station,
right?
And the other is Galen trying to get Sheridan to do something to save Earth from being destroyed.
Right. That's interesting.
It was like they took 2 previous movies and just rewrote them and stuck them together.
Right. It's like JMS ran out of ideas. I said, what can I do?
I mean, because there's some parts of this that are really neat. I like the idea of a demon finding a clever way to get off Earth. I thought that was pretty cool. It's like the only thing I liked, other than some of the conversation with the priest.
Right.
So there were elements of the first story that I thought were interesting, but overall, And then the second story, I like the idea that in A Call to Arms, Sheridan just does what Galen tells him to do. But in this one, Sheridan is like, you know what? I'm going to try something different and just tick Galen off, and that's just too bad, Galen.
Right. And
So that was
yeah,
neat. For moral reasons.
Right. I thought that I liked, because that was such a Babylon 5 way of approaching and finding a solution, approaching the problem and finding a solution, because they've always done, you always see the two obvious options, and then they come up with a third one just, to tilt everything sideways.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because we're going to get to it eventually, but I just want to mention that I enjoyed seeing Sheridan wrestling with killing somebody in cold blood, even knowing that it was for the best.
Right.
Because I agree that he couldn't do that. Right. That's not who he is.
Right.
So even knowing what could happen because he didn't do it, which is destroy the earth, I still can see him saying, no, I'm not going to do it this way. There's got to be a better way.
Right. And but we still don't know if that was the right choice. We don't know if he succeeded or not.
No, because this is the last we get.
Right.
This is as far, well, we do see in Sleeping in Light 10 years later and in the end of the Londo book, but it doesn't address any of this.
Right.
And the Londo book trilogy ends with Veer becoming emperor, right? Or right around that point.
And this attack on Earth by this prince was supposed to be, I believe, 30 years after this takes place. So
it's after Veer is no longer emperor for whatever.
Correct.
Yeah. So we've never seen that far into the Bible, other than little snippets in Deconstruction of Falling Stars.
Right.
That's the only time we've seen further into the B5 universe.
And that was way further.
Yeah. Well, the fact that an elderly Delenn watches television and goes and Karens the TV station shows that Earth must still be around, right?
Right. That's a good point.
Radioactive ruins of the TV station. So
interesting.
That remains, I think, in some ways, my favorite little bit. That we all get mad at stuff we hear on TV. Delenn hops in a spaceship, goes and walks to the studio. Off. Here's what I think about your loose talk about John Sheridan. He was a good man. Okay, bye.
Yeah, and she it's not like she's in the same city, like right down the street, where she just hops on a cab and goes over. She flies halfway across the galaxy to give these people a piece of her mind.
Piece of her mind. All right. I've said it. Now I'm gone. That's so good. That's so good. All right. The two segments run over a 72-hour span of time and are called Over Here and Over There. The Lockley one is over here and the Sheridan one is over there. It was filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia, so there's no wonder a Stargate actor was involved, right?
Right. It was probably filmed in an office building in British Columbia.
Probably so. Yeah, it would be what would be the equivalent of a hot tub factory in LA? I don't know. There's something. What would Vancouver have that would be as funny as a hot tub factory in Los Angeles?
I have no idea. I've never been to Vancouver, British Columbia.
What do you call it? Like a lumberjack, a wood mill. A lumber mill. It was filmed in a lumber mill. It's like every scene they had to stop while.
No. It was filmed in the back of a Tim Hortons.
Oh, nice. Okay.
There you go. See?
That's some poutine every time.
Right.
I'll gain 50 pounds. All right. There is no P5 rating. It's been a long time since we've had a P5 rating.
No kidding. Since the end of the Babylon 5 proper.
Yeah. We have an IMDb rating. Would you like to guess? We haven't done this in a long time, Andy. Would you like to guess on a scale of 0 to 10?
I'll take a guess, but it's probably way off. I'd say 7.3.
6.4.
Mm-hmm.
Did not go over too well. 6.4 out of 10. And I guess they did 3 separate ratings because the overall rating is 6.4. The Over Here Lockley story, 4.6.
Mm-hmm.
And the Over There Sheridan story, 5.5. And you may say, well, that doesn't average out to 6. No, that's why I say they must have done 3 separate.
Right.
separate ratings. So 4.6 and 5.5, which I think does indicate which one went over better.
Right, and I can see why the Sheridan one was rated lower, because it didn't have any support. It was basically a half an hour episode of Babylon 5. It didn't have any supporting cast or any supporting plot line. So yeah.
Right. IMDb lists the runtime of this thing is 38 minutes, but that's like each, I think, right? Because it was about
it was an hour and 10 minutes.
So about 7. Yeah. Okay. All right, we have a lot of material to get through, and I'm not going to do everything. But after after Crusade, which had very minimal notes, and Legend of the Rangers had very minimal notes, I found pages of stuff about this.
Really?
Pages. I'm just going to hit a few highlights. I'm going to leave a lot out, but I'm going to tell you, if you're really interested in the Lost Tales, there is stuff to be found out there.
I found one thing that was really funny.
Well, by all means, fire it up.
The only props left over from the original series were a Star Fury cockpit and one Earth Force uniform, which just so happened to fit Terry Scoggins, but that's because all the other props were either thrown away, pitched, like the sets and stuff like that, or they were stolen by crew and cast members as they left the series. So I'm betting Miss Scoggins took her uniform with her. And she still fit into it quite nicely 10 years later. So more power to her. But yeah, that was the only thing they had left. That's what all those sets were virtual. And you can see, I mean, they had 2 office chairs. I mean, that was basically it, and a bench for the guy to sit on. But everything else you could see, the outline. If you looked really close, especially in high def, you could see the outline that they weren't really sitting in, where they were sitting in the TV in the episode.
Yeah, I did read they did it very much like that black and white movie from around that time. I can't think of it with
Sky Pirates,
Sky Captain. Yeah,
Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It was all done with green screen with very minimal props. So I mean, and that's how they film. I mean, these days that's how they're filming. The Mandalorian. Only they don't use green screen. They use that big giant projector TV screen, the Sphere or something like that.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a few things. He announced this project at the 2006 San Diego Comic-Con. He said these were stories he had written for Babylon 5 but never had time to produce. He has no plans to produce any more. The original plan was that the DVDs was that each story would focus on one established cast member from the original show. Let's see. They were planning 3 half-hour episodes to add up to around 90 minutes of story. This was subsequently changed to 2 40-minute episodes. I don't think they were 40 minutes. I think they were more like 35 minutes each. There was a third storyline originally written involving Garibaldi. Eventually, it was decided there should only be 2 segments since his was the most complicated visually and technically. So it was postponed for the next planned installment that was never made. It was also reported that JMS had approached Peter Jurasik to see if he would reprise his role of Londo Mollari on a future DVD. Jurasik agreed so long as Straczynski wrote the story, which makes sense. Although I would have said, or Peter David, because he wrote Londo really good.
Right.
But isn't that interesting, though, that Garibaldi's was going to be the most complicated visually and technically?
Yeah, that is interesting.
I would have thought the least. I would have thought he'd be like a detective story or something. I mean, if you and I were going to sit down and do a 30-minute Garibaldi story, we would totally do like he's like come back to Babylon 5 looking for some clue to something, and he gets to go around down below and question aliens, right? And threaten people and stuff.
Visually and technically more complicated is relative. I mean, compare that to what we got. If he went to the Zocalo for a 2-minute scene, it would have been a lot more involved. I mean, there were no aliens except for those 2 Minbari. There wasn't any. You barely saw the inside of Babylon 5 except for a couple. I mean, they didn't even show the what do you call it? The meeting, the big giant meeting room. Well, not the big
the chambers
for the council chambers, right? They don't even show anything like that. I mean,
I know. When I was watching this, I messaged Andy and I said, "You just know, even the council chambers would have looked cooler in this HD level video imagery." We did get some really cool looks at the inside of the landing bay, though.
Yeah, that was cool. I did enjoy that, and we saw New York City in 22 whatever with the flying car.
Looked like Star Wars. Looked like the Coruscant or whatever.
Right. I was thinking it looked a lot like what's that movie with Bruce Willis?
Oh, the Fifth Element.
Fifth Element. Yeah, it looked a lot like that. But that was probably the best looking planet side scene we've had. I mean, it makes sense. It was 10 years later, 10 years after, or 9 years. Yeah.
Compare it to Crusade, what we were able to see in Crusade.
Right. Right.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Yeah. Yeah, he said, I wanted to focus on human characters initially so we'd have more time for prosthetics R&D for the next one. They do acknowledge the death of Richard Biggs and Andreas Katsulas. They've gone beyond the rim. That almost brought a tear. That was a little, got a little dusty. On July 13, 2008, so like a year after this came out, he announced in a Usenet post there would be no further Lost Tales because, quote, he was no longer interested in producing low-budget DVDs, cable projects, or small computer games, quote. He explained he was proud of B5 as a 5-year story, but felt that Legend of the Rangers and Lost Tales, though well-intentioned, did more to subtract from the legacy than add to it. Therefore, he stated, the only thing I would be interested in doing regarding B5 from this point on is a full-featured, big-budget feature film. And then he does an animated movie.
Right. Well, that was 20 years later or 30 years later.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
20 years later. Right.
I think by that point he realized there was never going to be
a
feature film. And I think he wanted to gauge I think they did the animated thing in part to gauge interest in doing that reboot show that ended up not happening.
Right.
So it was kind of R&D in its own. All right. So let's see. I have a few unanswered questions for you. Emperor Carthage's son is next in line for the throne after Veer, but we don't know whatever happened to Veer. David Sheridan is 9 years old in 2271. That tracks.
Mm-hmm.
We know what happens to him. The plague from A Call to Arms and Crusade appears to have been tended to by then, by 2271. Do we remember what year Crusade was? Like 2267, maybe?
Crusade took place, I want to say, 5 years after Babylon 5 ended.
So 67, 68.
Yeah.
And by 2271, they've apparently gotten over it and moved on. It's all good. So that's good. I had this is a question totally for you. They say Sheridan arrives in a new Valen class Minbari ship. Didn't we just see a new Valen class in Legend of the Rangers?
We did, and it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same ship.
No. Yeah. The one in Legend of the Rangers was intentionally like a cement block with wings,
right,
or something, to show that you don't have to be aerodynamic.
I'm wondering how canon Legends of the Rangers is considered by JMS, and I mean, because you don't hear anything mentioned about that anywhere ever. So,
except us.
Yeah, right. we're keeping the torch burning for that great show.
But no, it just seemed like every time the Minbari make a new ship, we'll call it the Valen class.
There you go.
As opposed to the Valen class, it's like Zathras is in their factory making them out, cranking them out. Zathras called this one Valen class. No, Zathras not like that name. Then what Zathras call it? Valen class. No slight difference. Valen class. Valen class. You're seeing, yes?
Well, it could be like every generation there's a new Enterprise class, like in Starfleet, or like there's a whole new Bonhomme Richard. There's always a Bonhomme Richard in the U.S. Navy. Always, when one goes, they come out with another one because there'll always be something named after Benjamin Franklin in the U.S. Navy.
Nice. Yeah. Let's see. Who and what was Asmodeus? Well, we'll talk about that. Was Sheridan able to turn Prince Ventari away from his future path? We don't know. We've not gone that far. And what was the significance of the necklace Galen gave to Sheridan?
I took that as something to show him that that wasn't just a dream.
Mm-hmm.
That was the proof, the physical proof that Sheridan needed to know that message from him was the real deal. That's what I took, because I don't think
definitely what it did.
Right.
But did it do anything else? Did it give him invisibility or flight powers or apparently no. It smacked of Morden to me, so I was a little concerned about it. But then again, they do use shadow tech, don't they?
Yeah, they do, for sure.
Let's see. All right, I wanted to ask you, this comes to a little section. I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to ask you, what did you make of the whole possessed by Asmodeus the demon thing?
I didn't like it a bit.
No. Okay.
No, I didn't. It was too mythological. I mean, there was no, up until the very end when they explained that it was really just some sort of entity from Earth that was trying to escape, and it wasn't really Asmodeus placed out in the stars by God to convince mankind to come back to the church. I didn't like that part at all up until the very end, when there was at least some attempt at making it a more grounded explanation for its existence. I mean, because we've always have talk of souls and angels and stuff in Babylon 5, but it's always based on science. You know, it's always an alien race that, you know, like the Vorlons, you know, and there's always some reason why. It's always something that exists in the universe that has been mistaken for a religious thing on Earth, whereas this was a religious thing on Earth that was then transported to the stars, like God is real and all this stuff. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, I get that. I didn't like how supernatural it was, because like you said, Babylon 5 has always had a supernatural element to it, more I think by far than Star Trek, for example. But it's always sort of been able to couch it in alien mythology or science or something, right? You know, like the souls are a great example, the soul hunter souls and the Minbari souls going to humans and all. They made reasons why it was plausible to some degree. This just seems purely religious, but I really liked the resolution where, you know, he was saying, we're out here in space, and I grabbed a hold of this guy. And I was thinking, but you said that it happened when he went to Earth. So I was kind of sniffing up the right path from the beginning, just on the clues we were given. And that's kind of what Lockley figures out in the middle of the night when she pulls an Ivanova and wakes up in the middle of the night in her bed. And do you think Ivanova has the same quarters? I mean, do you think Lockley has Ivanova's old quarters or Sheridan's old quarters?
I'd say Sheridan's old quarters.
Well, because Sheridan was there while she was there the first year.
That's true. Maybe they were sharing quarters.
No, I don't think Lynn would have been. I don't think Lynn was down for that.
That's a good question. I don't know if she would rate, and this is 9 or 10 years later, so maybe she, you know, bumped herself up once she kicked the old guy out. She took over his quarters.
Moved, sure, of course, she would have moved. I guess once Sheridan leaves, she's like, "All right, send in the redecorators.
Right,
get the orange blossoms out of here, and we'll."
Right. I don't like that they never explained any of his supernatural abilities, like the changing the smell, or the whole scene when he's inside a burning cathedral, and when the flames wrap around Babylon 5.
That was really weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I could see it being some sort of psionic ability, maybe, of him influencing the people in the room with him. But when they show the outside of Babylon 5 and the flames were wrapping around it, that made it more than just a psychic ability. It was a supernatural ability that they never really explained, and I wasn't a big fan of that.
Yeah, that was a bit much. Did they resolve it? I'm trying to think. All right, I got to be honest here. I tried to watch the DVD 3 different times last week, and I kept falling asleep during the Lockley segment, and I had to go back and rewind and start it over. And now it's kind of a blur. I was really with it for most of everything else, but when Lockley exposes that he's from Earth and he was trying to get off Earth by possessing a human so they could then do an exorcism in space, and he's off of, it's like the Silver Surfer finding a way to get around Galactus,
right?
Leave Earth. That's what I always thought of.
Yep.
Okay, that's all well and good. Once they figure that out, what happens to the guy?
They say they're gonna he passes out because they had sedated him, and they're just gonna send him back to Earth, and then they're gonna do the exorcism there on Earth.
Okay, that's what I missed.
That was stated but never shown. I mean, the priest said, "Yeah, we'll take care. I'll be able to take care of him now. You know, once we get him back to Earth, I'll be able to take care of him." And then he says, "You're pretty good at this." Because she said that she's going to pass the word to her Earth Force friends that if something similar comes up, to contact the priest, and he'll send out his crack team of exorcisers, and they'll go. Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters, right? they'll grab him, take him back to Earth, and do the exorcism there. But
who are you going to call?
Right.
Liz Lockley. Oh boy! All right, I missed a couple of words there, and I was like, "Whatever happened to the guy? Did they just leave him in the station now that they know the deal?"
No,
or what?
No, they took him back. They exorcised him, and that was the whole thing. They're going to do the exorcism back on Earth to trap him back on Earth again.
Yeah, they should have taken him to the Drazi homeworld. He'd have loved it there. That would have been awesome. He'd had a good time with the Drazi.
No, because he would have taken over a Drazi who would have then been elected. You know, he would have been elected purple or green or whatever, and he would have found a way to make the elections where he would win, no matter if it was purple or green.
Changed all the scarves to orange.
Right.
The Drazi have been like, orange? What does this mean? And you're like, follow me.
Yeah, and then he would have started. The Drazi would have turned fascist or more fascist, and then they would have.
I just find the Drazi funny. Just
they are.
They don't need anything. Just the Drazi themselves by themselves.
Right.
All right, I got a bunch more. Let's get a few more things here. Galen, we know. We didn't get anything out. Nothing here really intersected with War Without End Part 2, where we saw the future of Centauri Prime, because it's later. We talked about that. Didn't quantum space come up in Legend of the Rangers?
I want to say this is not the first time we've heard about this. It was either Legends of the Rangers or possibly in Crusade, but I think there was some mention of it, but this is the first time we actually saw quantum space and heard an explanation of it.
I definitely feel like it came up again recently, maybe in Legend of the Rangers.
That could very well be.
That it was like, because I feel like you and I talked about it and said, is this the thing that was like third space?
Right. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Yeah. I think it was Legends of the Rangers. Now I'll have to go back and watch Legends of the Rangers.
Oh Lord, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Is there it's not, they said they got it from the Vorlons, but it wasn't clear how.
Right. Well, he said we developed it from Vorlon technology.
Yeah. Well, that could mean a lot of things.
Right. Was it one of their mistakes, or was it something else?
Yeah. Has IPX started going to the Vorlon homeworld now?
I sure as hell hope not.
And did they take Max with them? See, I want to know what Max is doing after Crusade.
I would watch a whole series based on just Max alone. Just the adventures of Max. IPX. Right.
That would be fun. Let's see. How would a Centauri fleet be able to rain that level of destruction on one of the major planets of the Alliance? In other words, where did all the defenses go?
Right. I wondered that too. When they said it was the Centauri that was sending these big giant, I mean, this was like Vorlon planet killer levels of energy being thrown down there. So I don't know if that's something that they found. Like maybe it wasn't a planet killer. It wasn't a shadow planet killer, because they have a different way to destroy. I mean, this was Death Star level. So yeah, this is definitely more Vorlon type. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something that he found and surprised, because at the end of Babylon 5 proper, the human technology was every bit as powerful as the Centauri, probably even surpassed the Centauri a little bit.
I was thinking, yeah,
they weren't. I don't think they were quite Minbari level, but I mean,
no.
But the White Star fleet, I mean, heck, the White Stars would have done something.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
Right, especially when you had the whole Interstellar Alliance would have come to bear against the Centauri, you would think, unless there was other issues where the Interstellar Alliance wasn't a thing anymore.
Well, it's interesting to me, Galen and the Technomages put all that effort and time into countering shadow technology left over.
Mm-hmm.
Was anybody monitoring leftover Vorlon technology?
Right, and that could have been something in Crusade, because we had mentioned that while watching Crusade. Yes. There was that whole race that took what's her name, the thief,
Darina. Oh,
Darina, yeah.
The white sphere ship,
right?
The white ship from Battlestar
right,
Galactica.
Right.
Ooh, gosh! Now we needed. JMS needs to just write a dang novel. Write a book that ties everything together: the Telepath War, the end of Crusade, the Prince Ventir, all that. Just
I think that would be spectacular. I think that would be super cool.
Yes, absolutely. But I don't think he's ever going to do it.
Never.
Because A, he wants to save it if he ever does a movie or another TV show. Right. B, there's not an audience. There's you and me and the folks that enjoy our show, and that's pretty much half of it right there.
Yeah. That Babylon 5 never had a huge giant following that like Star Trek had.
And a lot of that is Warner's fault. They had the property and they've just kept it close to their vest, and they won't promote it. They've never promoted it.
Right.
They're almost as bad as Disney with John Carter. There's the bit where there's two guys in the station at the very beginning that are walking around and hopping up and down and stuff. Like if you watch the background when the priest first comes to the station, the little astronaut guys in the docking bay are like bouncing around in there. You have to look for them to see them. Yeah, everybody talks about that.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, they point out also that Father Cassidy talks about a long line at the customs area, but he's still in the docking bay when he says that. What did they push him back out? He just turned around and came back out into the docking bay. I'll wait out here. He's like me. When I left the basketball game at Missouri the other night, I looked at the line of cars. I just went right back to my car and sat down and sat there and watched the TV show. I'm like, I'm not getting in this line. I'm going to go back out here. So that's the same thing. That's fair. All right, I got a few JMS Speaks. Actually, there's a ton. There is a crap ton of JMS Speaks. Again, I'm just going to hit some highlights.
Wow, that's interesting.
Somebody asked him, because he documented the making of this on Usenet or whatever, and we've got
right. And the internet had come into its own by 2007. It had bloomed to where social media was on the very verge of blossoming. So yeah.
That's right. So somebody asked him, was the New York scene a tribute to The Fifth Element? And he says, no, it's from visiting New York. Okay. Fair enough. Somebody made a really good point that he agreed with. They said that Warner gives you the green light, but won't give you any money. And then it always makes more than they expect. And then they say, well, we're going to keep doing trial runs. And JMS says your appraisal is spot on. The problem is any studio is terrified of losing money on something. So they hedge their bets. They don't give you the ad money you want because they're afraid the sales won't support it. And they end up with a self-fulfilling prophecy more times than not.
Yet we get these colossal failures and bombs on a regular basis from big-time studios all the time.
They talked about the CGI of the quarters and the interior scenes. Some of it was real. Lockley's quarters were real. We shot against a real wall. The lamps were real. The hallway she walks down is real. But a lot of it is CGI. How did Galen know what was going to happen in the future? What did he really hope to achieve? And JMS says, let us remember that time travel is also a form of technology, which is all I'll say about it for now. And two, Galen would likely have been content with either solution, but as noted, as long as one of them or the other was implemented, but this one is better. It's just, and I'll note, it just takes longer and is harder than just shooting the guy, right?
Right. Well, and it's also more there are more variables involved with this, so it's a lot less certain. I mean, shooting the guy that takes care of the problem, period. This is, well, let's hope that, nothing else happens to turn them, and all the whole bunch of stuff could happen.
There was a line that was in there that I thought was very important to this, because I kept thinking, if you assassinate the prince, it may have the opposite effect of what you want. Instead of removing somebody that's mad at humans, you may make even more Centauri mad at humans by killing him, by having the president of the alliance kill him. But they actually said at one point it would probably go over really well back home. I think the prince says that they would celebrate if I got killed.
Right.
So that I thought that was important, because we needed to know that if Sheridan killed him, there wouldn't be a backlash. It would actually be, he'd get away with it.
In theory, but there are other factions that would probably jump on the opportunity to, stir up trouble with the International Alliance or Interstellar Alliance. Right.
Yeah. No, that's true too. There's a lot of moving parts, and I don't know we could predict anything as 100%.
Right. Ask me really is how well killing the terrorists has gone for them. I mean, they've been involved with that for 50 years now.
Yeah. They set up a temporary web page of photos from the production, and I went and looked, and that web page isn't there anymore. I bet it hasn't been around for 18 years.
Right.
Let's see. The rest of it is just him saying, like this was the first time Bruce Boxleitner was back in a Star Fury saddle. We're ahead of schedule. They actually finished filming a day ahead of schedule. They talked about the cast a little bit.
Does it say how long? I'm curious how long the shoot was, because when you say they finished a day ahead of schedule, does that mean they finished up on Thursday instead of Friday of that week?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks, and they finished 13 days instead of 14. Something like that.
Right.
Let's see. We're re-engineering the look of B5, the Star Furies, various alien ship designs, and the like. Tonight there was a dinner with Doug Netter, JMS, Tracy, and Bruce. Peter Woodward is scheduled to fly in tomorrow, so everybody's here for a couple of pivotal scenes that will cross the two segments. Bruce was openly lamenting the small subsection of British Babylon 5 fans, most of whom we agree couldn't be niftier, who are determined to try and drive a wedge between Bruce and me and the rest of the crew. No sooner was his involvement announced than this same bunch of wackos started the same rumors again, including the one where Bruce supposedly burned his crew jacket after the end of B5. Determined to put that to rest, Bruce pulled out all the crew coats we made up for him that were personalized by the wardrobe department, minus the one that was auctioned off for charity, and brought them all up here to dispel that myth once and for all. So they took a picture of Bruce with all these jackets to prove he didn't get mad. I'd never heard that he got mad and burned one.
So there was a group of fans that was starting these rumors to drive a wedge between Bruce and JMS.
Yeah, and the rest of the production.
Why?
I don't know. It's so bizarre.
That is bizarre.
It is so bizarre.
Fandom is a weird lot.
It is so weird, yeah.
And I say that from the inside. I mean, I'm part of several fandoms myself.
He says we're doing this to put to, or at minimum, to put a rest, to dispel the myth, to put that bald-faced lie to bed. Otherwise, all is good. The scenes are cutting together well. 3 days down, 7 to go. So 10 days, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then a whole bunch of other stuff about making it. The Garibaldi story was the most complicated visually and technically, also the most difficult from a CGI perspective. So that's the one we pushed back till potentially the next time, which never came, of course. And he says, if the sales of these are anywhere near what Warner Brothers expects, and I think they will be, and they were much more than that, there's no question there will be more of these down the road. Well, there was a question.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Let's see. And he says that these were even bigger than they would have been because we took the budget for all 3 and applied it just to 2.
Right.
So The show was created using 1993 technology, video toasters, and Amigas, and was to some extent limited by the paradigms and production methods we used in that. But it's now 13 years later, and while I keep the feel of the show the same and the silhouettes and designs, there's no reason to limit the look and the feel of what we could do 6 years ago from when we stopped. So we're going to invest a lot of time, effort, and money into really reimagining some of the visuals at the present level, looking at shows like Battlestar Galactica and the like, and bringing those tools into Babylon 5 while still maintaining the feel of the show. And then I also managed to work in a nice nod to Andreas and Richard. Oh, this was cool. And I highlighted this. This is Saul JMS speaks. I've decided to shoot each of the two segments a little differently from each other, so they each have their own visual style that complements that particular story. I agree. Did you notice that in the first one with Lockley, there was a lot of like zooming in tight and funny camera angles and stuff?
It was with a handheld camera. I hated it. It looked so cheap and amateurish. It was terrible.
Yeah, I agree that the quality, but I did like the idea of doing them to look to have a different feel.
I don't.
They made that effort.
I appreciate the effort. I don't think it worked out I don't think it was executed well in the first episode.
The rest of it is they were hiring various people. It was shot on digital HD instead of film. JMS says, I figure if I'm going to learn this stuff, I may as well dive in at the deep end, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yep, and it showed. It was very high def. Like I said, you could see every gray hair and wrinkle on Tracy Scoggins, and Bruce held up pretty well. He wasn't quite as wrinkly, but
it says there was a huge amount of green screen involved, lots of learning to be done. Eventually it'll be in the script book. I don't know if it ever was. And then basically they pushed the shooting to November of 2006 because the availability of different people. And then the last thing was somebody asked, will you do an on-camera introduction? He said, I think the next thing you'd see would be DVD sales plummeting. All right. There's all the notes I have. That was a lot.
That was a lot.
I skipped 80% of it. There was a lot. Like you said, it was a lot documented. Let's just get into the categories, knock them out here in the last few minutes. What was your high point?
High point was the FX, man. They looked like we've gone over. They looked absolutely fantastic. The texturing on the ships and especially on the space station on Babylon 5 itself looked fabulous. I mean, just light years beyond what they had on the TV show. On the TV show, it was just squigglies and stuff like that. So in the low res, low resolution shots that we got, they look like three-dimensional stuff, but you could see, I mean, it was like something from the Star Wars movie. You can see all the greebling and all the little lumps and it looked fantastic. And the interiors were the same. I mean, it looked great. You could see every stitch on their uniforms and the patches, and you could see the writing on the patches. It was insane, but it was, it was absolutely fantastic.
Well, and even the scene where Sheridan's sitting in the red chair and you see the Babylon 5 behind him on that wall, they kind of took advantage of that green screen thing that way.
Yep.
The station just looked so impressive there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it looked great. And the Star Furies too. I mean, the Star Furies were, they showed the...
We've got to talk about the Warlocks. Good Lord. That's the first time. We'd seen Warlocks in the blink of an eye here and there on Crusade, but this was the first time we've ever seen them in action, and one got blown up.
Right. They were going toe-to-toe with the Centauri, which makes me wonder where the Centauri got this technology, because they were going up against the Warlocks, which were like cutting-edge technology in the galaxy. So
yes. Yeah, Ivanova was captain of one of those for a while.
Now, hopefully it wasn't the one that got blown up.
No, I hope not. No. I had that pretty much too, that scene with the Centauri ships and the two Warlock destroyers was just mind-blowing. I did like that Sheridan's decision at the end to go against Galen and do things his own way. That was really cool.
Yep.
And then I said I like the idea of Lockley awaking late at night with a revelation, kind of the way Ivanova used to. That was that was a nice little throwback too. So
and I liked Lockley's character in this one. I thought she did.
She was better.
She had a lot to go on, and Tracy Scoggins is an underrated actress. I think she does a great job in this episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Because the first segment was all monologues. I mean, very rarely were two people talking. They'd have one or two lines together, and then somebody would go off on like a 5-minute monologue. You know, all three of the characters involved had their own super long monologue. So they didn't have much chance to interact. But I thought Tracy Scoggins handled hers very well.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. They had very long, a lot of dialogue.
Yeah,
they had to learn and bring out and make it sound interesting and not just boring. And
right.
Yeah. Although I did fall asleep 3 times.
On
3 different occasions.
As Asmodeus, his speechifying was a little like, you know, because he kept saying the same thing over and over again, just in a different way.
Top. A little over the top. Yeah. All right. So that was my low point, was the whole demon thing. What about you?
The low point for the first one was the camera work. Oh, I really hated it. It looked like something out of pardon me saying this, but it looked like something out of a porn. You know, it was just the handheld stuff, very amateurish, moving in and out on certain body parts and all that stuff. It was almost embarrassing. It was really bad.
I also noted, and I said this before, I didn't love the idea of basically redoing Call to Arms, where Galen comes and tells Sheridan, you got to go save Earth again or something.
Right. That was use that whole plot line trotted out yet again. Yeah.
Yet again. Yeah. Again, I hate to say that because probably, you know, Sheridan and Galen are my 2 favorite characters. So I like them doing stuff. I just wish they weren't doing the same thing. You know?
Right. I wish that they had somehow tied the whole demon possession thing into Sheridan's segment somehow, just to make it more relevant and to give us something new and different. Yeah, it's right. I mean, and they could have still involved the Centauri Prince somehow. I mean, maybe when they, I don't know how. Maybe he visited Earth and got possessed. I don't know.
He gets possessed, and that's why he wants to blow up Earth.
Right.
You know, I was just thinking though, one thing I did like about Sheridan and Galen's relationship in this one is you could tell this was not the first time that they'd interacted. That was a Call to Arms, because Sheridan like calls him Galen.
Yeah.
And says we've known each other a while and blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, I was glad to hear that.
Right.
I'm glad they went there and kind of laid out that fact. All right, what was most Babylon 5 scene?
Most Babylon 5 scene, I had a couple of them. One was just the opening shot when you saw Babylon 5 and you approached Babylon 5, you saw the ships floating around. They even had a Minbari, war cruiser out there and all that stuff. That was very Babylon 5. And then I also had Sheridan finds another way. That seems to be an ongoing theme. I mean, every senior officer has had some opportunity or another to find a different way to solve the problem other than what's the obvious options that are given to them.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I said the most Babylon 5 thing was really the opening segment that was like the lead-in, like where they showed the different planets. They showed Jakar standing there next to Narn. And it even ended with Kosh and the Vorlon homeworld, which we had never seen before.
Right. That was cool.
That was very exciting. I was like, oh, and even the music, you had that it was kind of a combination of Christopher Frankie's 5th season music along with the video game music, the aborted Sierra video game.
Right.
And you had this sort of a dark, sinister part come in, and you saw Kosh kind of standing there. Here, for the folks that are watching on YouTube, you saw this and the planet right here, right? And there you go. And so,
I thought the big ending was really cool.
Yeah, that was it for me. What was your favorite character moment?
Favorite character moment has got to be. Let me see. I think in the first segment, it was when Lockley confronts Asmodeus, however they were pronouncing his name, there at the very end, where she finally figures everything out and kind of puts him in his place and says, you're going to go back to Earth and you're going to be trapped there forever. I thought that was pretty cool. But the one that really got me was when they were talking to Sheridan and he asked about Jakar, and I think it was Lockley who said he's out there somewhere beyond the rim. And Sheridan was saying that. Sheridan was telling Galen that? I forget, but Sheridan, the actor, Bruce Boxleitner, I don't know if it was his acting or if he really got caught up, because he kind of stopped for a moment, put his hands to his face, and kind of had to swallow before he could continue with his line. And that really got me. I mean, those guys were friends, and that had to be back in that uniform, to be back, shooting that TV show again without, Jakar there. That had to that had to be a little bit emotional for him, and I think it showed a little bit in that scene.
Yeah, it was emotional for all of us just watching it. No, because that's so much bad has happened to so many of the great actors from this show over the years. It's just all way ahead of their time, is the thing.
Way ahead, right? Yeah, it was sad.
I'll agree with that. I thought there were a few other nice bits with Lockley and getting to do her long soliloquy where she figures out the bad guy's deal and everything, and talks about why she's still on B5 9 years later, which was interesting that she's still there longer than any other commander, I guess, and holds that record.
Well, that's because there's no interstellar wars going on.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, and and then Sheridan doing it his own way and sticking it to Galen at the end again was kind of a cool character moment too.
Right. Yeah.
Funniest moment. There's several here. I thought
that there was no funny moments in the first one. I don't think. But in the second segment, there was two that really jumped out at me. The first one was when the computer the lady tells him that the INS agent or INS news reporter was there to interview him, and he goes, "Tell her I'm dead and throw her out of the airlock." I thought that was really funny.
Throw her down the stairs.
Yeah, throw her down the stairs. That's right. Throw her down the stairs. Yes. I thought that was good.
Worse.
And then the bit about the Pakmara when he tells the joke and ends with properly cooked. And then that joke was funny, but then he comes back and says, I think every joke in the Pakmara language ends with properly cooked. I got such a chuckle out of it. I don't know why, but I just laughed out loud while I was watching that. It was really funny.
Didn't he say something too like that joke just kills with the Pakmara?
Right. The whole little segment was just hilarious, and it came out of nowhere, but it was delivered, I mean, perfectly by Boxleitner. It's just really funny.
I had that, and I had, there is hope, but it is a slim hope. And he says, well, I've never known when hope wasn't on a diet.
Right.
That was good. And then the prince tells Sheridan that Lando said,
Lando.
I mean, I would say Lando. It's Lando that won the Formula One. Dang it. Sheridan says that Lando says he would trust him with his life. And he goes, well, no, he would trust him with the prince's life, with my life. Right. And Sheridan starts laughing. I thought that sounded exactly like I could just see Lando saying, I would trust him with my life. Well, I would trust him with your life. Totally 100% see that. So.
And then he just laughed and walked away.
That's absolutely. I guess the keeper didn't mind that, so he was like being quiet that day. Who won the episode?
I'd say probably Lockley and possibly Prince Vitari.
Yeah, the prince definitely did.
Yeah, because he didn't die, and he got to shack up with the Delens or the Sheridans. I don't know, what would they go by, the Delens or the Sheridans?
The presidential suite,
right? The presidential palace.
I love how Vitari is kind of like, you want me to come live with your family? That just came out of nowhere, right? And Sheridan's like, yeah, pretty much.
I thought that was so cool. I thought that was really, because what better way to influence the future ruler of a major power in the galaxy than to have him just live with you, so he could hang out, so he could see. I mean, they say that the answer to fascism and conservatism is to have people travel the world, to meet other people and to see how they live and get their perspectives and all that stuff. And I thought, man, that would be a perfect opportunity for the Centauri because he's living a sheltered life on Centauri Prime. I mean, he's getting all the history and all the propaganda and all that stuff fed to him. He doesn't have access to real interaction with other races. So I thought that was a cool way and a very cool solution to the potential problem.
Well, Sheridan even said, I've got a 9-year-old son. He could use a big brother.
Right. I thought that was cool.
Which was very cool.
Yeah.
But I think that the way that Sheridan reacted there made it clearer to the prince how sincere he was. Because if this was some clever plan, Sheridan would have had some spiel. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, you could do this, and you could, and we could blah blah blah. And Sheridan's just kind of like, yeah, sure. And so it was so genuine. It came across so genuine.
And the prince even pointed that out. He says, how do I know this isn't just some ploy to, to influence me when I become emperor? And Sheridan's like, I don't have an answer for that, but just come hang out anyway. And I thought that was super cool.
Because it kind of is. That's the whole point, is he's trying to influence him.
Right. I can just see the prince going back to the Centauri Prime to take the throne, and he's wearing jeans and he has his hair cut and all that stuff. And they're like, what is this?
Oh, it's so good. He's listening to some heavy metal band from
right. He's got a concert T-shirt on, or better, a Daffy Duck T-shirt, because Garibaldi would have had some influence.
We are opening trade relations with Earth again. It'll be glorious. Yeah. I love it. That'd be so good. It would be cool if Ventari ends up being the one who does restore, because I'm sure Veer does to a certain degree.
Right.
Right. Once the witchy-hickeys, the shadows,
the Drock
are kind of done. Yeah.
Right.
Veer gets to begin his reign with them gone.
Right.
He gets to kind of have like he's like Bill Clinton walking in the White House right after the Cold War ended. He kind of gets a clean slate.
I would counter that by saying he's more like Jimmy Carter walking into the White House after Vietnam ended, because he was probably left with an economy in shambles.
Yes,
and a divided populace, and the whole galaxy hating him anyway. So I think he would have had a much steeper hill to climb than Bill Clinton.
So I guess what I'm saying then is Veer gets a few years to kind of clean things up, and then you could see this young man coming in and being like ushering in a new golden age of relations with Earth, thanks to his being around Sheridan.
Yep, for sure.
And he didn't say anything about the vase that David.
Right. Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Would he have been saved from that yet?
That's a good question. That may be two plot lines that didn't ever need to cross. So
Interesting. Yeah.
Who lost? The dumb demon, I guess.
The demon guy lost for sure. And kind of, well, I don't know if Galen lost or not. He didn't necessarily get what he wanted, or did he? I don't know.
I have Galen with a question mark, so I think we're in agreement about that.
Right.
He doesn't like not getting his way, though. So
right.
All right, 0 to 5, and you can use half points. How do you rate the Lost Tales?
Man, I want to give it. I can't go any higher than a 2.5, simply because the storylines weren't integrated. I really didn't like the first segment at all. I didn't like the story so much. I didn't like the camera work. It's hard to give it more than a 2.5. As much as I like the second, if I were to rate these separately, first one would get a 2, the second one would get a 3.5.
That works. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was bouncing back and forth between 2.5 and 3. I ended up giving it a 3 just because of the things that are there, like the beautiful visual effects and everything are so nice. We got some Sheridan, we got some Galen. I like the way they resolved the issue with the Centauri prince and everything. Right. So, and again, I thought the demon storyline was really bad up until we got something of a Silver Surfer ending that kind of fictionally made sense to me. So I bumped it up to a 3, but none of this can go higher than a 3. I don't think it's still way too season 5-ish to be more than a 3.
Yeah. I think if it were edited together as to one contiguous storyline versus the two different segments, I think even if they didn't integrate the two storylines, even if it was just, edited together so it was one solid episode rather than the two segments, I think I would have given it a higher thing. And I do want to point out there at the very end, when the prince and Sheridan are looking at Babylon 5, I think it was the prince, maybe it was Lockley, and no, it was the prince and Sheridan. They're looking at Babylon 5 and talking about the station, and Sheridan says, well, this is either the beginning of all things or the end of all things. And then he says, I wonder which this will be. And, well, we got our answer. That was the end of all things, because we never got anything after that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we've only got one thing left to do. I'll go ahead and mention that our next installment, I can't read it across the room, but I think we're about to do Stargate Universe coming up soon. Good. But let's see what our patrons have said lately, because they've had things to say.
Good. I love this segment.
Yeah. So have we done feedback from In Valen's Name, the comics? I can't remember.
We did. I want to say we did. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we did too.
I don't know. Did we?
There's quite a bit. There's talk about Space 1999, Battlestar Galactica. I can't remember.
Yeah, we did talk about that stuff.
Okay. Let's see. The feedback that we got for our for our most recent was our top 25 movies episode. We got 7 comments, and I'm going to go in order from oldest to newest as I always do. Steve the Green Hand says, when you've been listening to people for a long time, you just think in one way that what they look like when you see them, it's so different. This is happening now. Great to see you on here. So
that's awesome.
Every time I've ever listened to radio guys or audio podcasts and then seen the YouTube of them, I'm always like, oh, they don't look anything like I expected. So people are going through that with you and me. So here we are.
Vane and I have faces for radio.
There you go. Absolutely. But not for the sun shining into the window. Wow. Visual Andy and Van says, Jay, really appreciate your podcast and listen on either Audible or Patreon. So happy to hear you talk about John Carter of Mars. That movie gave me some of the feelings I had when I first saw original Star Wars in '77. It's so sad.
Yes. I love that movie too.
Yeah.
It was almost on my main list.
That's right. Grumpy old SGU fan. Really enjoyed the movie countdown and very happy to hear one of my favorite movies mentioned, Jet Li's Hero. It's higher in my list. I did find I enjoyed it even more after watching several times. Okay, a lot of times. The understated performances of the actors really hits home the more you watch it, like the moment when the king announces that Nameless is the most dangerous assassin. The whole dynamic between them changes, and only later do you realize that at that moment they know they will both die that day. That's good. That's interesting.
And I knew Jet Li mostly from his modern day, the gangster stuff and stuff like that. So it was weird seeing him in this more traditional, mythological, more understated kung fu type movie.
Yes, but he was good.
He was fantastic. It was a great movie.
Yes. Unavez says, I'm glad the 2010 Robin Hood is getting some appreciation. It's very different from a traditional Robin Hood movie, my favorite of which is the 1938 version. I guess that's Errol Flynn.
Oh, absolutely. I could go on and on about that.
But it does have a lot of historical people and events in it. Never realized, but it does make a good sequel to Kingdom of Heaven, another good movie. That's what I was talking about. Yeah. Can't believe Master and Commander only made Andy's honorable mention list. Loved that movie. Amen.
I didn't dislike that movie. Again, this is going to be another War Without End. I loved Master and Commander. It just wasn't on my top. It was on my honorable mentions. It almost was. Yeah.
It was. Una also says, have you ever seen a movie called Red? Bruce Willis, John Malkovich, Helen Mirren, Brian Cox, Morgan Freeman, Keith Urban. Over-the-top action movie, but hilarious and so much fun. Apparently based on some DC Comics graphic novels. I have actually seen that back in the day.
I did too. It was fine. It was fun.
And then, and then we got, I put up a thing about the show titles, and I just wanted to see. Okay. So what I did, I posted just a post on January 4 in a panic where I realized that my shows with Jim Yelton about Space 1989, I actually have an opening just for them because they were originally going to go on the White Rocket network, and so they were going to need their own their own intro, like welcome to the and I kept that. And then I started thinking people are going to think this show is now that they're going up first run on this channel. I thought people are going to think we've changed just to that. Oh no, we're going to lose all of our audience except for the Space 1999 fans. So I said, don't panic. Our show titles aren't changing. I just am doing different ones for different shows. So I'll put one together for Battlestar Galactica when we get to it.
Right.
And I just wanted people to know that. And so Steve the Green Hand says we need an overall Babylon 5 kind of send-off show.
I don't disagree with that. I would like that.
I'd kind of been holding off on anything like that just because we keep finding other things to do. We can still do the DC Comics, those 11 issues, I think.
We can let that idea percolate for a while and then and then do something.
I feel like we're going to come back and do more. In fact, I was very excited that we were getting to do a Babylon 5 episode this week because it shows that we're not leaving Babylon 5 behind. There were still things we needed to cover.
Right.
Steve says excited for this year. I'm awesome. I'm so happy about that.
Yep.
Chard Pak Mara Morsel says I found the OG Battlestar Galactica series on Prime and one episode in. Looking forward to you boys discussing it. I'm also 2 seasons through For All Mankind. Certainly a different approach to what I'm used to. And I said I enjoy that show. It's 50% sci-fi and alternate history and 50% trashy soap opera.
Right.
and Pak Mara says, yeah, the soap opera stuff is heavily telegraphed, but still fun. good tension in places. I agree. It's a really good show, even though it is trashy in places. And finally, Steve says, also excited for the new Space 1999 pod because I've never seen it. I started the first episode, and I will definitely be watching along with you guys for the first time, which is great. We did have somebody on our previous comments back on Valen's name that said somebody said it was awful, and that I know. Yeah, Grumpy. We may have already read these, but I just want to mention Grumpy Old SGU fan was kind of grumpy this day. He said, I watched the original Galactica. I liked it at the time. The 04 version is far superior in every conceivable way. I'll probably watch the first couple of episodes of the original to see if it's any better than my memory, but why not go straight to the better version? Well, I think we want to do the old one first, right? We'll do the new one, I guess, at some point. But you and Laura and I all three have good memories about the old 78 show.
Right. And I mean, the 2004 version came out when the internet was around, and there was, I mean, it's been detailed ad nauseum. I mean, it has gotten more attention because it exploded. I mean, it was fantastic, and it influenced a whole generation of television science fiction producers. So, I mean, I don't know what we can bring to it. I guess we can look at it. When he says it's far superior than the original in every aspect, I disagree because the Cylon Centaurians and the Cylon ships are way cooler in the original.
No, I like a lot about the original. I like the mythology better. I like a lot of things about the original better. I like Starbuck and Apollo better in the original than I do the new version.
Starbuck in the new one's pretty awesome.
She's pretty awesome, but so is Dirk Benedict.
This is true. It would be. I mean, it would be fun to compare and contrast, to do maybe as an episode while we're watching the original, to compare and contrast. I don't know. It would be difficult.
I don't know. The other thing he said was, Grumpy said, was Space 1999. When I heard Van talking about it and his love of the show, I went back for a rewatch, first since it originally aired. It is unwatchable. Martin Landau and Barbara Bain are the least charismatic lead actors I've ever seen. The plots are lazy. I watched maybe half the first season and stopped torturing myself. Again, everybody likes something different. We're covering the shows that we love, and if you love them too, or if you want to check them out, great. And if you don't, skip that episode. Go on to the next one. So,
I mean, nostalgia has a whole lot to do with it for me, for my love of any of these sci-fi shows. I mean, I can see that they're objectively bad shows, but they're still shows that I enjoy watching and that I love. So it's like the whole Showa era of Godzilla. They're terrible movies and they're ridiculous and absurd, but you know what, Van and I love them because it's monsters beating up monsters, and it's just fun.
And then he said, Foundation. I watched the first episode for free on Prime. It's good, really good. Not so good that I signed up for Apple TV for it, but good enough that when I have some time to binge, I'll do the free preview and watch at least the first season. Not thrilled that you're going to review a show that requires a new subscription. This again, just one of those things. Can't help it.
That's the way the TV landscape is these days. If we want to review and talk about new shows, we're going to unfortunately talk about shows that some people don't have access to, which stinks.
Well, that was true for you with Crusade. You had to go out and get Crusade. So
I had to buy Crusade, and I had to buy Stargate Universe, because at the time it wasn't on Prime. It is now, but it wasn't then.
Oh, good. Okay.
So, but I mean, it is what it is, and we understand that you don't necessarily you're not necessarily able to follow them, but maybe this will kind of convince you to try out new shows. Yeah. Like, I mean, you're saying you don't want to spring for the Apple TV, subscription, but there's more on there other than Foundation. There are some great science fiction on there. There's great shows, period. I mean, Ted Lasso's, isn't Ted Lasso on there?
Ted Lasso's
Lasso's on there.
Season 2 of Hijack just started, and I watched the first episode, and it was great.
Yeah. And
in fact, I was going to say the new Hijack is Idris Elba's show,
right?
And he's gone into territory where like Liam Neeson, Jason Statham, and Gerard Butler have gone, where he's making himself kind of the hero of a cool storyline like they do in all their movies.
Right.
The difference is they do 2-hour movies where they get to beat people up. Hijack is like a 6-8 episode TV show, very high, much more intelligent production. than most of those movies. And I love those movies, but Idris Elba's show Hijack is more intelligent than most shows, most movies you could compare it to.
Idris Elba is a more cerebral action hero.
Yeah.
Actor, not necessarily the character, but a more cerebral actor. He's fantastic. He brings a level of intelligence to all of his roles, and
so
I think that's great. But yeah, I mean, Apple TV's got all kinds of stuff. One of my favorite television shows of all, one of my favorite television shows of all time is this little one season series called Drops of God, which was fabulous. And I tell people about it, they're like, "What? I've never heard of that before." But
just last night watched the episode of The Studio with Seth Rogen, and it is hilarious. So
is it?
Good. I mean, Slow Horses is on there, and there's like a show that's associated with Slow Horses by the same writer, Mick Herron, and it's called Down Cemetery Road. We just watched it. It was fantastic. And then again, the sci-fi stuff. Silo is amazing. I didn't love Severance as much as everybody else,
right?
But For All Mankind is terrific. I mean, it's absolutely worth getting Apple just to get all these great shows,
right? And if you're talking about science fiction, they are adapting one of the greatest one of Van's favorite science fiction novels of all time in Neuromancer. So
that's right. Yeah. And season 2 of Monarch is about to start.
Yeah.
Which is Godzilla King Kong.
And they're supposed to get Godzilla involved with this.
It's the season 1 of Monarch was my least favorite thing I've seen on Apple that I've watched all the way through, just because they didn't really use the monsters I wanted to see. It was it was those kids running around, the young people running around.
Right.
But I'm going to still watch season 2 just on the hope that I'll get a glimpse of some cool monsters that I like and everything. And Kurt Russell was really funny in it too. So.
And his son was in that too, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, without putting on.
Yeah, that's how they did it. They did it like World War II era and had the son, and then they did later and they had Kurt Russell. Yeah,
I kept expecting him to put on a black Captain America costume.
I know. We'll get that in when the Avengers return in Doomsday, I'm sure. All right. Any thoughts before we wrap up? Oh, I didn't thank our before we go.
Yeah, thank our patrons.
Last thing, gotta thank the patrons that keep the show on the air and keep us commercial free.
And we don't just scroll the names up on the screen really quick. We actually talk them out.
Yeah. That includes Leah G, Emmanuel Seaman, Rich Hammett, Stu Parker, Shakna Atumbe. He just keeps getting promoted.
He does. I love that about him.
I hope he doesn't get possessed by an earth demon or anything.
No, don't give him any ideas, Van.
No. Dragon Khan Delin, the Geek Boy, Unavez, and Unaluza Azul. Sathras says there's sure being a lot of Drazi, but Sathras does not mind. Pete Wildstar, Fire the Wave Motion Gun, Furman, Middle-Aged Tim, Grumpy Old SGU Fan, Dragon Con Todd of the Discerning Geeks Portal Podcast, Fit to be Mootide, DRKX, Steve the Green Hand, a charred Pakmara morsel with his delightful Boba Fett head, as you can see why I always say that when you look up behind me on the YouTube channel. Heather and Yancey Steingraber, Count Baltar, bum, 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 bum. Always got to do that.
All right, now wait a minute. Is that in his name, or is that something you add to it?
I add to it.
All right.
Because it's Count Baltar. If it was Dr. Baltar, it would be the 2004. Right. But this is Count Baltar from 78. See? Thinking. Mondo 6, Drazi Purple in Purple. We are stunning. Lou Welch's Revenge, Jay, and Captain Quinn of the EAS Achilles. Andy, this has been a long show. We need to get the crap out of here.
Yeah, I got to cook dinner.
I'm telling you, we got to roll. Thank you for bearing with me through all this craziness.
Yeah, no, I have no more thoughts. I thought it was fun to rewatch this. It was decent. It was a good way to spend 70 minutes. So it wasn't terrible. And as far as a send off to Babylon 5, it was a little bit of a downer, but
at least if they're going to do a send off to Babylon 5, we got Sheridan,
right,
and Galen. In my opinion, the two coolest characters on the two shows, Babylon 5 and Crusade. Yeah. So I am content with that.
Yep.
All right, we're out of here. We will see you guys for a Stargate Universe with Laura coming up in a couple of weeks. See you guys later. See you later, Andy.
All right, see you, man.